welcome back to Repressed Humor Issues, to our 20th episode.
Yeah, so with tears in our eyes, we're going to realize that episode number 20 is the end
What?
of this season.
Oh, it's stupid.
I'm glad you said what, because I was trying to figure out exactly when to end that pause.
It's like, thanks for telling me that you're just canceling the show.
Yeah, we decided that 20 episodes is good for a season. We're going to do a little interlude thing we were talking about, and then we're going to come back with another 20 embarrassing episodes.
You know, I can't, because I have my screen so fucked up, I can't even see what your name is today. Captain Crunch Your Skull.
Yes.
Oh.
It goes along with our topic for today that we'll talk about in a little bit, which is much better than vegan donut no hole.
But what hole are we talking about here?
The WHOLE. Which apparently you think is as funny as a Beavis and Butthead sketch on Saturday Night Live,
Oh my
but is
God.
nowhere near that funny.
It was so good, though. My God.
Yes.
I mean, the concept generically fantastic, but then to have her just break was just comedy gold. Sorry, I hope that Mike didn't pick all that up.
And the best part about it was everybody was breaking. Everybody on that set was breaking. Nobody could hold it together because I don't think anybody expected Butthead to look that Butthead.
It was so perfect. It was just, I mean, good job, makeup artists. Like, that was phenomenal.
Yes. I mean, just getting his mouth to stay like that. We talked about this earlier. If they used some glue or whatever they did, just holding your mouth in that position had to be extremely tiring, even with whatever support they had in there to do so.
But
like
they must have had
they must have had like a full implant they put in there that just covered his teeth that forced his mouth up like that. But it was great.
They did like the Walter Matthau Dennis the Menace thing where he did chiclets.
Wow, way to go back to 1980.
Hey, I dug deep for that reference, and we got there pretty quick. Let's celebrate the small things. I do want to... Go ahead.
Go ahead. I was just going to say, you brought up a good question when we were talking about this earlier. Did they have to pay royalties for using those characters, or are they in public domain now? And I honestly don't know. That would be an interesting thing to find out if Mike Judge just let them use them, or if there was some constraint that they had to use, or if they had to pay for it. And if anybody knows the rules on that, please let us know. We'll bring it up next season, just because it's a really interesting concept of you're using something that is a portrayal of somebody else for comedic effect, but what are the rules around your ability to be able to use them? Like, I use Ryan for comedic effect all the time, Clown College Boy, but I don't have to pay any royalties for that.
I'm a cheap whore.
Totally different subject from what I was talking about, but thanks for the break to reality.
You're welcome. But I mean, if you think about it, like, I guess if somebody's impersonating Donald Trump like they often do on SNL, I don't think they pay him royalties for that because it's just a likeness. But when it's a character, that's got to be a different category. Because if you think about, like we talked about it a couple episodes ago, all the horror movies that are being recreated based on innocent childhood characters like Winnie the Pooh because they fell into public domain. So they don't have to pay those royalties anymore. But that means they did have to in the past. So they just waited. So what's the difference between a character and a person in that capacity? I don't know. Interesting topic.
Yeah.
But
so we also really want to acknowledge the fact that it's been a few weeks again since we put out an episode, and there's a multitude of reasons for that. And for the first time, I'm actually the cause of some of that instead of Clown College Boy and his Clown College family.
Oh, yeah, for once, I cannot be blamed.
Yes. I've had events in my life that I'm fine. Things have worked out, but just It was a weird week, and we had some technical issues with the last time we tried to record this episode. So I'm going to acknowledge the fact that for once I'm the one that caused the delay. But we'll get better at this. We've worked out some technology pieces, and
Yep.
the other parts of my life that caused all the problems were solved within the last few hours, interestingly enough. So,
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. That
yep.
was rapid awesome. Um on a lighter note, I want to just tell a quick story about how I fucked up without knowing I fucked up.
Uh oh. I got to
Uh,
hear this.
yeah. Well, this happened yesterday. So I am a little deviant who eats things that he shouldn't sometimes, like peanut butter M&Ms in the shape of Easter eggs. I have a obsession with getting coffee, black coffee, and donuts. Just fucking love it. It's fucking great. Whatever. Just awesome. There's a place 1 block from me. Awesome coffee, great donuts. You have to go in the morning. I had a 15-minute window between meetings because a meeting ended early, and I put myself on do not disturb and I sprinted out. And my husband was like, "Where are you going?" I was like, "Not of your concern," because I don't like admitting what I'm going to do. Anyway, I get said donut, I get said coffee. I eat, I consume. I'm looking back as I'm leaving, and I'm like, tasted a little different today, and I don't know why. Hey, they brought in the vegan version of said donut. That's the same as the normal donut, and they put them side by side. So you have vegan and original. They can't tell the difference. They don't know what they put out. I have a history where the vegan donuts don't work well with my body. I don't know what's in them, but something causes a very uh, fast reaction. So I had a very long day on top of an actual long work day, thanks to an unsuspecting vegan donut. That's why my name is Vegan Donut today.
So realize I haven't gone this far into making the jokes about Ryan's sexual proclivities at this point, but he was telling me earlier how he had to go do his little boy business. And I have to remind him that saying it that way can be taken in a multitude of ways. And it would
Yes.
be preferable if he just said, I have to go shit, than to say, I have to go do my little boy business and bounce his eyebrows up and down while he does it.
Yeah.
And just so you're aware, Ryan, men don't tinkle. Okay, I went to go relieve myself before we started taping, and he said, "Have fun going tinkle."
Yeah.
I do not
You
tinkle.
had your
Men
tinkle
do
time.
not tinkle.
You had
No,
your tinkle
no,
time. Enjoy your
no.
tinkle time.
Just grow the f up and stop being so gay, please. Just do it, please.
Oh.
So, speaking of fucked up, I got a story I've got to tell then.
All right. All right.
My wife and I were in bed the other day, and a lot of our weird stuff happens while we're in bed. That sounded weird as
I'm
well,
gonna
but
not unpack that one.
uh, she's laying on her side. I rolled up behind her, and in a moment of weakness, I said, "You know, you're my favorite human."
Oh,
And
that's sweet.
she said, "Good, you're my favorite human too." But what I heard for some reason in my brain, mostly because she was facing the other way and mumbling, was her saying, "Good because you're white." And
Whoa!
we
Wow!
we had a good long conversation about who's the racist in that case. Because is it her for making it good that I'm white? Or is it me because I only think she's my favorite human because I'm white? There's a whole bunch of
Well,
repercussions that go along with that statement of me just mishearing something that she honestly said just to respond appropriately to what I said.
I mean, that's weighty.
Yeah.
Uh,
So
I think she's wrong though, just because I want to say that.
But am I wrong for hearing it that way when she didn't say it that way? See, there's all
I mean,
sorts of levels to this.
I don't think you're wrong for hearing it that way. If it's mumbling and turned away from you, we fall prey to hearing things incorrectly all the time. I always hear I'm the greatest. And that's not always what people are saying. Sometimes they're just saying "fuck you, asshole," but that's
Or
fine.
clown college boy.
There's that too. So yeah,
But
I
I
still
I
blame
want to
your
get
wife.
I want to get people's opinions on this. So again, it is repressedhumorissues@gmail.com,
Mhm,
or you can go to their website and submit it there in the
mhm.
contact us section. I want to hear who you think is to blame on that one, who you think the potential racist is, based off of me saying you are my favorite human being and me hearing in return good because you're white. I want to hear your opinions.
Hmm.
And if we get some good ones, we'll leave that as the cliffhanger for this particular thing until next season.
The dangling participle, the dingleberry of the season.
I didn't. I thought you were the dingleberry.
Yeah, I just I cling to all the hair I can and I don't let go.
I mean, you walked into that one, but did you have to walk backwards into that one?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So get us out of this little bit that we're
Oh,
in right now, and let's talk about what we're going to talk about today.
yeah. We've talked about this for quite some time, and I think there's a multitude of things we can do here. To be fair, um, but we both have a quiet. I don't want to say affinity, but curiosity towards serial killers. And I think there's a lot of interesting factoids, information. You were sharing some with me today that I was just like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
More than just like the heavy hitters that we all know about. I almost said know and love, and that's just twisted. But I caught myself. I caught myself. I'm getting better.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
So there are a couple of stats that are interesting, and one of them is that there are 220,000 open cold cases in the U.S. right now. Okay, and a lot of those are since 1970, and a lot of those can be attributed to serial killers that were never identified.
That's
And
wild.
that number is huge, and 1% of those will ever get solved. So of the 220,000, you're looking at 2,200 that they figure will actually get solved. That means that roughly 197, sorry, of the 217,000 murders will never get solved.
So I kind of want to do an impromptu quiz for you to see if
Okay.
you can do this right. I have this stat and I don't know why, but I do. Do you want to do top three or top five? We'll give you the choice.
Top five.
Okay.
I have no idea what I'm top fiving, but top five.
Gonna let that one go too. The top five states with the most serial killers.
So California's number one.
Yes.
Texas is number two.
Yes.
Florida is number three.
Yes.
Those are the top three.
Yep.
Four and five, I'm going to struggle with. But I'm going to guess New Mexico.
No. Not even in the top 10.
Georgia.
Georgia is number 9.
Wow. Okay. So I could keep guessing states here, but am I wrong that it's going to be in the South?
1. I'm sorry. Yes, you would be wrong.
Huh. Interesting. Okay. Well, then you've got New York City just by population. Sorry, New York by population,
There you go. That's
and
number
then
5.
it's I've got two others, and then I'll give up if I don't know
Okay.
out of these next two states. It's either going to be Michigan
No.
or I've got three states, but I'm going to hold myself to two. Ohio.
Illinois would be number 4. Your
Really?
Ohio was number 6. Michigan was number 8.
Huh. Okay. Because I was also thinking Massachusetts is up there somewhere as well.
No, Pennsylvania actually is number 7, and
Hmm.
then Washington State is number 10.
Yeah. But I get credit for not
You
only naming
did
the top three
you knew the
in
top
order.
3 in order. That was perfect. Like, there
Yeah.
it's there. I found this really cool map that somebody did with, actual color coding and all that, which I love that kind of statistics. Um, Now, do you wanna do bonus round?
Sure. And then I want to bring up my other
But I'll just
stat
do
that
it
you
for
know about.
I'll just do it for top 3 though. So for California, what serial killer had the most victims? Known victims.
Ooh, most.
We'll just do it for California.
Yeah. It wasn't the Night Stalker. Oh God! So it wasn't Richard Ramirez. The I honestly don't know.
So technically, it's the Zodiac killer.
The Zodiac is. I thought that with the break that he took, that he wouldn't get that crown. I know Richard Ramirez was up there.
Third
There's a
so Zodiac had 37 known victims.
okay,
That's the key metric here, is the known victim bit.
right.
But yeah.
So I ran across a stat, and I told you this one earlier, and this one is actually pretty shocking. In the U.S., in your lifetime, the average person will walk past 36 serial killers.
See, that one blows me away. I mean, when you told me that, I was like, "What the fuck?" I mean, it made me. I actually thought about it when I was walking my dog. I was like, "Who?"
There's over 2,000 serial killers active in the U.S. today.
That's so crazy.
Yeah, that it's just to think about the number of opportunities you have to be a victim. And if you only pass 35, does that mean you're the serial killer? You're the 36th?
Only if you've killed.
Well, but you could become a serial killer.
Fair, I guess it could be a future premonition.
And how many serial killers pass by another serial killer? Does the serial killer pass by 36 serial killers in his life?
Do you think they know? Do they give each other like a knowing nod or
There's
like,
that. They do the motorcycle thing where they hold the V out down low to each
or
other.
like maybe they do something really obscure where they both open a brand new carton of milk and take a sip and just spit a little on the ground, but they've wasted like tons of cartons of milk, and that's how we've known that they had like 37 victims.
But wouldn't that just make it easier to arrest them? Because you just arrest everybody that's spitting out little bits of milk all over the place.
Yeah, but I
And
mean,
if
the
you were the
majority of
cops,
the
wouldn't you just hold on to a thing of milk and walk around till you saw another guy with milk, take a little swig, spit it out, and see if he spits it out back, and if he does, arrest him?
yeah, but it's like a sixth sense, like they know it, like they have to do it. It's like a secret society thing. They just walk by each other and they're kind of like magnets that stop, open the carton of milk, take a sip. This is stupid. I'm so sorry this came out of my head.
But I still think the more interesting scenario is what happens when a serial killer abducts a serial killer.
I would assume they
Because
play,
does the
yeah,
second
they
serial killer think, "Ooh, I'm luring him into my trap"? Well, the first one thinks, "Ooh, I'm luring him into my trap." And I say him because the majority of serial killers are
yeah.
male.
I would think that instead of that, they probably just like talk about it and then play Yahtzee.
Yahtzee, that's their game.
Yeah, that's the
They
game
don't
of
play
choice.
Connect Four or something like that.
No, and they're definitely not playing the game of life. Anyway. Oh,
Well, kind of they are.
they're
They're
playing
getting
with
to choose
life.
which car they get to knock off the track. Oh, you think you've got twins? No, you don't.
Sorry, Milton Bradley. We just took this down south.
Wow, yeah. Well,
Hmm.
at least we're not begging for sponsors anymore, though we got to check another one off the list.
Yeah, that got exhausting there for a
Yeah.
second. Like, it was like, how do we find funny defunct companies? Uh, yeah, I mean, I think the serial killer bit is so interesting, and I know a lot of other podcasts have done it, but it's just something that I feel is important to you and I. We've talked about it a few times. We've talked around it, and I I don't know, the statistics that surround this are what baffle me. Because I think the highest rate of active serial killers was in the 70s, if I recall.
Yes.
That sounds about right, and it's tailed off now. But we talked about this as well. Like, to be a serial killer in 2024 would be near impossible. There's too
Yeah.
many things that you're connected to.
And there's too many cameras. That's the other thing. Everybody that commits a crime right now generally is caught on camera, either being in the vicinity or committing the crime itself. And that's just made it incredibly difficult to be able to get away with it.
I mean, that's a
So,
great thing. I guess for this, in that instance, I like the cameras.
yeah. But I mean, there's ways to get around that. I think one of the things that we could do is talk about with all the research that we've done into this, knowing that this is the second time that we've done this episode. What are the tips that we would use? And I still say the first thing you have to do is make your cell phone move somewhere you aren't. Okay, and I thought about this. We talked about last time putting it on working for a bus company and putting it on a bus that you could then predict where it was going to be so you could recover that phone. Don't take it with you to the location because there's way too many people that get caught based off of cell phone triangulation to find out where they were. I mean, it didn't work well with the guy from the Serial podcast. They actually misread the information to say he was somewhere that he wasn't. But for the most part, a lot of people get caught based off of their cell phone tracks exactly to the last known locations of certain people. You just make your cell phone work. But what I thought is if you are a serial killer that works at night, buy a Roomba because then you could put your cell phone on the Roomba, let it go clean your house. Your house gets cleaned while you're gone. It looks like you're moving around your house like you have insomnia while you're actually out there murdering people. I mean, it's the perfect thing.
Um, I think the other interesting thing, and for whatever reason, the U.S. has the by and large lion's share of serial killers out there.
Yes,
Period.
it's like 82%.
Yeah, and I was wrong on the dates a bit. I did have to go look it up. It was like late 70s into the early 90s was actually the peak.
Yeah.
So,
Sorry, the other thing we forgot to mention in there, DNA.
oh yeah. Yeah,
DNA
DNA
changed the
forensics
serial
is so
killer
much
game.
better. Oh, absolutely. It's interesting because if you look at to I'm looking at a chart. If you look at today, 2024, it's not even five active serial killers right
Hmm.
now in the US.
That's interesting because I read somewhere else that it was in the thousands. So this is one of those things with the internet that finding out what is exactly true can be a little bit difficult.
Yeah,
So
because they might not have all the
misinformed.
sources
Yeah.
collated, but yeah,
But somewhere between 5 and 2,000 is how many serial killers are operating in the US as we speak. And
which is
realize the the definition of a serial killer is somebody that
really,
commits three different murders in at three different times. So they could be the same location, but three people have to die, and it's not two people at one occasion and one at another person. It has to be three distinct events. Okay, so technically, mass murderers, if they're shooting with a gun, that's all one event. But if they shoot in one place, then they shoot in another place, then they shoot in a third place, that's technically qualifying them as a serial killer.
yeah. I mean, I this is fascinating too. So this study did an analysis of the IQs of the measured serial killers, um, and there was a sample of 72 of them had taken it. So the average IQ 104.8, the highest 160, the lowest 64.
Right. So that's an interesting dynamic because there's some research that's been done that found that more of the people at the lower and the upper end of the IQ scale are on the spectrum.
Mm,
And the more you're more likely to be on the spectrum if you're a serial killer than if you're not.
that's fascinating.
So And now the one that I found that was fascinating that I thought, okay, well, if anybody knows the difference between correlation and causation, this is going to be an interesting one. Ryan, what is the favorite drink of the serial killer?
Oh, I actually know this. Gin and tonic.
Yes. Yeah, you told me that. That's how I knew
Yeah,
you knew
yeah,
that to ask you that question. Um, and it's probably not causation, but if you've ever drank a gin and tea, a G and T, you probably started off as a serial killer, anyways. But
yeah.
but
I think
serial
my
killers.
boss's favorite drink is a gin and tonic.
Oh God, we're all going to be in the same room as him at some point, aren't we?
Yep, we are. It's the truth.
But just think about it. More by percentage, a larger percentage of serial killers like gin and tonic than the general population.
That's
That's a
the
scary thought because where do you think a lot of serial killers are going to find their prey? Somewhere where you can get a drink. So
yeah.
you should be able to identify who you should not sit next to by them ordering a gin and tonic. Just walk away.
Yeah, you hear that, just get. Um,
And if he orders you one, it's a test.
take it. It's 2024. Just take the chance. Oh.
And if he spits out a little bit of milk, I mean,
Yeah, just open a carton.
yeah. So the other fact that I found that identifies serial killers that's really interesting, um, the number of short-term Walmart greeters and people that come onto podcasts using their cell phone, they have a much higher percentage of being serial killers.
I think that's just stupid.
I know some people that are not going to be pleased with that comment too.
No, 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 no. You just nicked two birds with one stone right there. Um, the one stat that I was really trying to find because I was genuinely curious. I have a brother and a sister, and so I was curious. What is the correlation for a serial killer? Is it oldest, middle, youngest child in a family? And there is only child was the other category. Um, they're equal. I was so disappointed by that statistic. They're all equal. And I was like, so there's no correlation if you're oldest, youngest, only child, whatever, it doesn't matter. So very upset by that.
Oh, that's interesting because I would have figured, based off of my family, it was the first or fourth child.
I would have said the youngest child
Uh,
in mine. Um, sorry, Katie. But the other thing that and this is where I'm gonna I'm just fascinated by all these statistics that people have done on serial killers. But like sexual preference is uh, like, do they lean hetero? Do they lean homosexual, bisexual, transsexual, pedophile, whatever it might be? Um, by and large, almost all heterosexual. The
yes.
tiniest category of known serial killers, actually, the category that is, according to this study, has none, is transsexual or
Hmm,
transgendered, I guess, is the more
transgender.
proper nomenclature today. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well,
You got to be
what I think,
of
what
a
I've
liking.
noticed, the stat that I thought that was interesting was that if your if you as a child were raised by your birth parents, um, the 78% of serial killers were raised by their birth parents, where only 14% were adopted and 8% just floated through the system. But imagine that
Oh, it's like
78%.
full foster children. Wow.
Yeah. So 78% of kids that were raised by their parents, sorry, not 78% of serial killers were raised by their natural biological parents. You want to know what that means? Us as parents having kids create serial killers. Us as parents taking in other people's kids have a much higher tolerance for those kids and are not going to convert them into something else. You seem astounded by that.
I also I am, well, I'm also worried about your internet connection because it looks like it's struggling hard over there.
it,
You're so
it did the same
pixelated.
thing on my side. You were jerking a little bit there too, but so
Oh, we're gonna have some podcastle fun.
yeah. So I think that I want to move on to actually some stories that we've talked about with serial killers, or that we know about serial killers. Because you brought up the Zodiac killer before, and that's a really interesting story. And the fact that to this day they still don't know who he is.
Which is crazy. That just blows me away. Like how we've never been able to uncover that. Like
Yes,
how has he or she, I guess, been able to just skate free?
and it's on. The interesting part is most serial killers that taunt the police get caught faster. They're found out easier because they always give away something. Yet the Zodiac killer, who taunted police for decades, never gave away enough to identify himself. Now, some of what he did was just plain gibberish, and they know that because they put it through encryption algorithms and all that sort of stuff and found out it meant nothing. But in its meaning, nothing was meant to throw people off the trail. Um, the Green River killer. Why am I forgetting
Yeah,
the
Green
name?
River. Green River.
Uh, yeah, he taunted the cops, and that got him caught almost immediately. Um,
Who's the one that you were telling me about that has like the Netflix documentary on it?
so on, are you talking about the Son of Sam documentary?
No, no, no. No, the one that was fessing up to all the murders.
Oh, that's Harvey Lee Lucas. Yeah, they call it the serial, the confession killer. It's a thing on Netflix, and I was going to talk about that. I was going to go through that taunting thing first, but you
Oh,
have to
sorry.
watch this if you're at all interested in serial killers. I'm going to start this with a spoiler alert, and that spoiler alert turned into my internet going down. So you might hear a little blip here, but spoiler alert, we're back, and we're going to talk a little bit more about Henry Lee Lucas.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes.
It's an interesting story because he confessed to murdering his mother in Georgetown, Texas. And for some reason, they just let him talk to them like he was just like able to wander around the police station. He had a TV in his jail cell and a lot of other stuff that other people didn't get. And what they did was they would show him murder scenes and he would tell them how he did it. He would confess to the Texas Rangers about all of these murders that he committed. And it didn't really, nobody really thought, how is he able to recall all of this? And then other agencies started hearing about this and would send down people. And he had this innate ability to be able to spatially reason, to be able to understand maps, and could tell them details about the murder scenes based off of those maps. Um, and started confessing to between 600 and 3,000 murders.
That's insane.
He thought every single murder we put in front of this person, he confesses to. Nobody thought there's something wrong with that. Not the Texas Rangers, not the people I heard as far away as Minnesota were pinning murders on him based off of his confessions. And what it turned out that was happening was the Texas Rangers, the specific ones in Georgetown, would show him pictures and he would assemble together how he would commit the murder in his mind, then use a spatial reasoning for maps and tell them landmarks around it that he would be able to tell them how exactly the murder happened, how he got the person there, distances, all that sort of stuff. Now, he finally gets the death sentence based off of a murder that's known as Orange Socks Girl. Okay, a woman that was in Oklahoma that was found only wearing orange socks. okay, which is really a good fashion choice in the 70s. Um, but what ends up happening is people start to question what exactly is going on. But he gets convicted of that murder before they start putting together something's wrong here. And he gets the death penalty for that murder. And he starts wanting to recant some of the things that he said because he realized, okay, now all of a sudden I'm not just getting 3 square meals a day. Now they're going to kill me for this. And he starts recanting it. But nobody had noticed up until this point. In November of 1978, he put together a travel log that would have, based off of the distance between all the murders, he would have had to have traveled 11,000 miles in
Jesus.
October of 1978 at an average of 50 miles an hour. That's
Good
no
God.
car breakdowns. That's, no 8 hours a day of sleeping.
No
I
tire
mean,
changes, nothing.
yeah, okay. And there were places where he would have to be in two different cities at the exact same time to commit the murders that he said. And those cities could be hundreds of miles apart.
It is possible in certain parts of the country to be in two cities at the same time.
I live in one of those, living in the Twin Cities. I could technically step one foot into St. Paul and the other one into Minneapolis. I get it.
Yeah, when I was in Kansas City, there was a road called State Line Road. You could literally stand in Kansas City, Kansas, and Kansas City, Missouri.
Yeah. So, but here's where it gets funny. And I say funny in a weird sort of way. Um,
Twisted.
so he's starting to realize there's consequences. And one of the murders that they actually believed that he committed was he murdered his girlfriend. Then,
Mm.
out of the blue, his girlfriend from that time suddenly shows up and is married. Okay, and is saying he never killed me. And super, super spoiler alert on this one. If you're not going to watch this, you're fine. But if you're going to watch it, don't listen for about the next 30 seconds. Um, he found somebody that fell in love with him while he was in prison, even though he was married to somebody else that loved him so much. She pretended to be his ex girlfriend.
What?
Yes. So he confesses to all of those murders. And to this day, the Texas Rangers still believe that he committed all those murders, even though California, Arkansas, Tennessee, Oklahoma have cleared him of many of the murders. I believe they've actually convicted 21 other people based off of murders they committed that he copped to. But that still means that there's hundreds, potentially thousands of cases that were closed based off of his confessions that he never really committed those murders,
And they never
that
reopened the
they
cases.
never
Or they
reopened
reopened
them.
some.
They reopened some, but realize he also delayed any prosecution that was available based off of that because they had their man. There was no reason to look anywhere else. So he was lower IQ. He was a people person, a people pleaser, until it became real that he was going to get executed for this. He was willing to cop to as many murders as he could because it was making him famous.
That's so twisted. I mean, goes to show, I guess, fame hits people in a very different way because it's a weird kind of fame.
Yep. And the real break in the dam when they realized what was going on was they had a FBI agent put together a fake murder. And that fake murder was then presented to him. They had photographic evidence, they had the maps, all that sort of stuff. But the murder never occurred, and he copped to it. And that's how they validated that he was lying. So there's a whole thing where another agency in Texas took him because they were going to prosecute him, and Georgetown got him back because they said they had precedents. It's called The Serial Confessor, and it is a really good documentary. There's 4 episodes. It's limited series. It's really worth watching.
I mean, I asked this last time we attempted to record this 97 times. But I'll ask it again.
The
Because
Serial Killer Brigade is attacking my internet now as we speak, trying to
yeah,
make this not happen.
It was your mic the week before. It's your internet this week. I mean, next time they're just going to come crashing through a window. But I'd ask the question: does a mobster or a gangster, rather, constitute a serial killer?
Yeah, and it's interesting because in theory they kill in something that by pure definition could be considered a serial killing, but
Oh no!
most serial killers do not work in groups. They don't kill in front of other people. And
Right.
mobsters tend to have the intimidation factor where killing somebody in front of somebody else intimidates them, or killing in front of a group raises them up in status. Their motives aren't the same. So, although by the purest of definitions they could be considered serial killers, they're generally not seen that way because they're they're doing what they're doing generally to hide other crimes.
Yeah. I mean, you also have to wonder, like, how many serial killers were actually killing to hide another crime, but they ended up liking the outcome. Like it might have been petty theft or something like that, and then they murdered somebody because they got seen, and but then kept going.
Yeah, I think that's interesting because there's a couple of facts about serial killers that are really important. And the first is that when a serial killer generally starts killing, they always repeat the same type of killing over and over and over again. Like the Son of Sam killings were
Hmm.
all shot through the window of their car in a dark street, and the person ran away afterwards. And they always attack prostitutes or lesser known people, marginalized people, because it takes longer to be able to identify them, and people aren't missing them the same way, so they can get away with it. The
Sex
other
workers.
interesting sex workers, drug addicts, those sorts of things.
Yeah.
The other interesting statistic about this is that their method of murder generally stays the same as well. You will not find very many killers that will shoot somebody one time, stab them the next, and strangle them the time after that.
Hmm.
Now, they might strangle somebody they've shot, and that's the way they do things, but they don't vary that murder to murder. They get better. They perfect their methodology as they go. So there's very few deviations from that, but Richard Ramirez is the biggest deviation because most of them, when they start murdering, don't commit other crimes because other crimes increase risk.
Hmm.
But Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker, was killing his standard people. There was a lot of Asian people that he was targeting, to be perfectly honest
Right.
with
Yeah. 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 I was trying to think of it was an ethnic group. That's for
you.
sure,
Yeah.
though.
But he was also abducting children. And some of the children, as long as in his terms they behaved, he would just sexually abuse them and then release them, where other ones he would kill. And he's one of the few serial killers that actually had multiple methodologies for how he killed.
Now, did what he was the one that killed. I don't know if it was the most, but it's got to be up there for like years active. Like he was only active for like a year, year and a half, or something like that.
Yep. And in the US, he is the only serial killer that was captured by a mob of people. Now, this is an interesting
Uh-huh.
story. They figured out who he was. They identified him. Somebody put it up on TV, and the police were worried. Well, he's going to jump on a Greyhound and leave town. So they staked out the Greyhound station. There's a whole bunch of cops throughout waiting for him to come in the main entrance. Well, it turns out he was driving back from Arizona at that point on a Greyhound, saw all the cops, and he identified them because he said they don't smell and they have clean shoes. And homeless people don't have that, and they were trying to pretend to be homeless people. So he
Okay.
escaped out the back door, but they knew where he was going to be, and they had identified him by visual image on TV. People started identifying him, and eventually he walked into a neighborhood where people started literally beating him up. And the police had to come and save Richard Ramirez from the mob killing him.
Oh, that's kind of wild.
Yeah.
I mean, don't love the mob mentality of people, but or herd mentality. I guess it's more of herd mentality.
Well, imagine if you were his twin brother.
Oh my god. It's like I'm getting the shit beat out of me for nothing.
Yeah, or damn Richard. I mean, he's
Foiled again.
yeah, he's gonna get away with this.
I got
So
blamed when I was 3 for stealing the candy bar. Now I'm getting blamed for murders. What's next?
yeah. And then there's just the oddities, and Jeffrey Dahmer is a great version of the oddity.
Was that the one that
Um,
they did the Netflix miniseries on that they won Emmys and all that? Is that right?
yeah,
Yeah, I haven't
yeah.
watched it yet, so
I watched the first 10 minutes, and it was not my kind of thing.
okay.
As much as it was about serial killers, it was not done in the documentary style.
It
Um,
it was actual dramatic
yeah,
acting, right? Yeah.
but what was interesting about Jeffrey Dahmer is at one point he ran out of spaces to dispose of bodies in his house because literally he was keeping the bodies in his house until he could either dissolve them or deskin them or whatever he was going to do with them. So he had a body that was in his bathtub that it is known he took multiple showers standing over top of that person
God.
while that person was dead below.
And he was a cannibal, right?
He was a cannibal.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and realize I used to live in Milwaukee or close to Milwaukee, the suburbs of Milwaukee, and they tore down the building and it's now just a grassy area with a couple of markers in it because they were worried about people wanting to move into that building just based off of the history of that building. The people that lived there while he was there said the smells were unbelievable and the landlords wouldn't do anything about it.
Why wouldn't you call the cops at that point?
I
Like,
mean,
the foresight of people were they just, like, living up to the Wisconsin identity and chugging more beer just to drown away the smell? I mean
my honestly, there could be that element, but I think it's more on the lines of you are talking about a down on their luck kind of building. You are not talking about a great building to live in, and a lot of these people are going to have reasons why they don't want the cops searching that
Oh,
building.
fair, yeah. They could
So
be
calling the
violating
cops
parole or
wasn't the
whatever.
option.
Yeah.
But you call the landlord and complain, and the landlord opens it up. He's going to see weird things happening, and that's not what happened. No, somebody escaped. That's the only reason Jeffrey Dahmer got caught. And I used to drive by the prison in Waupun where he was housed and where he was eventually murdered. And it was always weird going by that place, knowing that that's where Jeffrey Dahmer met his eventual fate.
Yeah, because he was murdered by an inmate, right?
Yeah, and the inmate basically wanted to kill a white person. Yes,
Oh.
that was the inmate's thing. He wanted to kill a white person
It wasn't
because
because of his charges, just that he wanted to kill a white person. Jeffrey Dahmer happened to be the guy. Oh, that's wild.
he happened to be the target of opportunity. Yes.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there obviously some of the other heavy hitters: John Wayne Gacy, Ted Bundy. I mean,
Yeah.
you can't ignore those very famous names.
Yeah.
Um,
It's the ones that are questionable that are really interesting because there's another documentary I watched on the Son of Sam. And there's a guy by the name of Maury Terry that did an investigation. And this is another spoiler alert. Excuse me. There's a spoiler alert to
just
this one.
spoiling everything today.
Um, if you're going to watch the Son of Sam documentary, the new one on Netflix, you probably want to skip about the next 10 minutes again. But it's a really good documentary because what it lays out is the case that David Berkowitz, although he might have committed some of the murders, didn't commit all of the murders. And the reason that they know that is because the reason that he knew that before it consumed him, and eventually he died from the stress on his heart of
Wow.
knowing what he knew. Um, what they found was one of the letters that was dropped by one of the early victims' cars mentioned John Weedy. He said, "I'm Johnny Weedy, um, and I'm son of Sam." Well, everybody knows the story of the dog that was apparently giving David Berkowitz the commands. But what they don't realize was the guy next door was named Sam Carr, and he had a son named John that in high school was called Johnny Weedy.
Oh no. So he was just
Okay.
conflating somebody else's name. Okay.
Well, but get this. The eyewitness reports when they did these artist sketches of the shooters from people that survived or people that witnessed the people running away matched John Carr and his brother, not David Berkowitz. When they hauled in David Berkowitz, he looked completely different than the sketches. Okay, but he happened to be really good friends with the Carr brothers. 3 weeks after David Berkowitz was arrested, um, John Carr was found in Minot, North Dakota, with a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head.
Why not?
And shortly thereafter, his brother committed suicide as well. Um, David Berkowitz, to this day, says he committed some of the murders, not all the murders, but knowing that there was somebody named Sam who had two sons that inside of the notes referenced one of the sons, and eyewitness reports put a person looking like them at the murder scene at the time of the murder, and they were all part of a cult called the Children of Satan, that had a big following back in the 70s. Um, it's possible that two people that helped commit many of these murders got away with it until they shot themselves because they thought they were going to get caught based off of David Berkowitz getting caught.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I haven't, I don't know how I didn't hear of this person. Shifting gears slightly but Harold Shipman?
I've heard the name. I don't remember the story.
Yeah, so he's known, I'll just read it. He's known as Dr. Death and is believed to have killed an estimated 250 patients. He
Yes.
practiced in Greater Manchester, England between 1972 and 1998. He worked in two different offices, killing all the while. He wasn't caught until a red flag was raised by several people, including an undertaker who was surprised by the sheer number of cremation certificates Shipman was part of, along with the fact that most of the cases were elderly women found to have died in bed, not at night, but rather during the day. Police mishandled the actual investigation, and Shipman went killing until he got greedy and tried to concoct a will for a victim that named him the beneficiary, which led the victim's daughter to become suspicious. He was finally convicted in 2000 and committed suicide in prison in 2004.
Now, do they say what his standard operating method was?
No, this doesn't. I mean, this is just like a quick snippet on him, or snip
Yeah.
tit, as I sometimes say.
But I'm guessing that early on he might have used several methods, but I guarantee you that the majority of his methods were either insulin overdose or something like that that would be harder to be able to tell. Uh,
Yes.
Actually, I'm reading it right now after seeing this that a lot of them were found to have dimorphine or a form of heroin in their system
So
when they were
he was
executed.
overdosing him.
Yes, that's what it seems like, and that's
Yeah.
again back to they perfect one method of killing. They don't switch methods very often, and with reason because there's risk in switching methods, but there's also risk in continuing the same methodology because if you always do the same thing, then when you eventually get caught, it's easy to trace back what other murders you committed. And there's also another stat that say most serial murderers stay within a very defined geographical range to commit murders. They don't leave from
Yeah. He
their
stayed between
trusted
two
place.
offices.
Yeah, they purposely try to control everything that they can, and going to someplace new brings in a risk. And I think this is a good point where we could talk about what are our thoughts on how to get away with being a serial murderer. And I talked about tape your phone to a Roomba, which I mean, it's a spectacular idea. Got to
I,
admit that.
but I mean, in 2024, I mean, you would have to have an old car, like truly like a 70s car, 80s car maybe, that doesn't have any computer components really that are traceable to anything.
Or or a Tesla where the computer components just don't work properly.
Hey, I got free self-driving for a month. Watch out. I'm gonna let Elon hit a bunch of people. Um,
you better watch out.
yeah, yeah. There's a button on my phone now that says summon, and I'm like, I am too afraid to even try it.
Yeah. So,
Um,
but yeah, there's too much computers. My car from 2015 has a 2G connection still in it that is still active that they can still track down by triangulation where that car is at any one time.
yeah, I
Yet they
mean,
can't stop them from stealing the car and sending it overseas, which makes no sense.
yeah, that's baffling. Yeah, I mean, if you really wanted to get away with it, I mean, well, I have a stupid thing that now this would not be applicable in 2024, but let's act like it's GameCube era. Okay,
Okay.
gonna give away my little thing. If you ever wanted to keep like a list of
I have to interrupt you for a second. Never say give away your little thing on this again.
ah, damn it. Okay, so video games used to have memory cards and all that, right? To play the discs and whatnot. So, in a game called Animal Crossing on the GameCube, you're a little animal in running a village and making friends and doing little tasks and shit like that. You could dig holes however you want and plant trees or whatever. But you could also dig a hole and bury a letter. So you could bury your confession in a game randomly on your little island map. Hold on. And then take said memory card and go bury that somewhere in real life. And the only way somebody could figure out what you've done in your confession letter that's inside a hole in a fictitious video game land is find your memory card for the GameCube, know which game to open, and then go dig up your letter.
But if you don't write the confession letter in the first place, you don't get caught doing
Look, look, look.
that. I know if I'm going to poke holes in everything that you do, what's the point? But I'm going to poke holes because that's what I do.
But it's just one of those. It's like,
You're
yeah,
not going to bust me on saying I'm just going to poke holes. I mean, come on, after what I
uh,
just busted you on.
no, no. I mean, as long as
That's
it's
what she said.
as long as it's gentle. Um,
I think I want to go back to your car thing for a second. Uh, Buy a second PCU and get a program for your vehicle. Change that PCU, take off your license plates, commit your murder, put the first PCU back in. Your computer now, so the VIN that's associated with that second PCU, okay, is no longer associated with your car. Destroy that PCU, all of that tracking becomes much more difficult to be able to do because the VIN will, the PCU will not match up to the expectations of what that tracking is all about.
oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, I just it's hard because you'd have to go and do it in a rural area most likely, or such a populated city that the trash is taken out all the time or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's something like that, but you're right. There's just too many cameras. There's too much cell phone.
Yeah.
It's just I don't know. It's really hard to even like process how I would go about it.
And that's where never do an unpremeditated murder. That's the thing that you're talking about. You have to know the angles of the camera. You have to know the blind spots. You have to know where there's no cameras. You have to
Yeah.
know where the trail to get to and from where you're going to do it does not have cameras.
I mean,
You
you
have
have to
to,
scope stuff out early, 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 and then come back and give multiple weeks in between just
yeah,
to come back and hope nothing's changed.
or wear a freaking mask and burn the mask after you commit the murder.
I mean, or I know that what God, I can't remember the movie. It's not Face Off, but similar concept. But it was like a murderer, and they went and got significant facial reconstruction and changed their identity that way. Like that's the extreme, but you could do it.
Well, they're putting new faces on people. Like it really can happen nowadays. Now, most of those people look like they've been in Wisconsin too long and have been drinking Schlitz beer for the last 70 years. But I mean, it still can be done. But I'm not sure I would go to that element of let them disfigure my face to avoid them figuring out who I am. When there's still going to be pictures of me before I put the weird looking face on my face
Yeah, but I mean that's a modern day way to change your
yeah.
identity, I guess.
Or wear a mask.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, mask is, but like you have to sit there and think about all the different things. Like, okay, I have to make sure none of my hair follicles accidentally fall out,
Shave
or
every single hair off your body. I mean, you're already doing it with your eyebrows, so.
dude, fuck off. They're there today. God damn it. But what movie was it? I think Seven, where he shaved off his fingerprints.
Yes. Yep.
Um,
Get rid of every single possible identifying thing. Burn your fingers in a toaster so that you have no identifiable prints. Shave every hair, and I mean every hair off your body. Go full Sid Barrett.
but I
Um,
mean, and then you got to make sure that you don't have any victims scratching you with their fingernails and having your DNA underneath their
yeah. So
fingernails.
so wear a suit of armor.
Yes, where that would be the noisiest murder ever. Just playing that in my head.
The visual on that is just hard because now every single time you go into a museum that has a suit of armor in it, you're going to be serial murder.
It's just like the worst one ever. He killed one person and then himself.
Yeah.
Oh,
But I mean, wear Kevlar and wear sleeves and all that sort of stuff. But you're going to have to wear gloves and you're going to have to make sure that they can't grab onto hair. So you're going to have to wear something over your head, even though you've
oh,
shaved off all your hair and that sort of
it's
stuff.
easy. You just like from the American Horror Story TV show that latex bodysuit, like the
Yes.
full latex bodysuit.
So what Ryan is talking about is be called the Gimp serial killer.
That's right. That's right. That's right. I couldn't
Yes.
remember the name of it. I was struggling with it. I was like, but yeah, that's it.
And I just have to look that up now to make sure that somebody hasn't already thought of that. Gimp serial killer. I suggest everybody else that's listening right now go ahead and do that too. Uh,
Well, he was
nope,
kind of a serial killer in the show, right? Or was he
I never
fictitious?
watched that show.
Oh,
They've got
I,
something called Serial Killer Scavenger Hunt on IMDb. That
ooh,
sounds interesting. But
yeah.
yeah, there's there's no GIMP serial killer. So if you're a serial killer, and it would make sense you're listening to this episode right now. In fact, you're probably one of the many serial killers that happens to be part of our audience. There's a new name for you. Somebody needs to be the GIMP serial killer.
I don't think we should promote being a serial killer.
No, they're
Also,
already a serial killer. Now we're just giving them a name.
you can find your identity through a latex all black suit that just has
Yes,
eye
a zipper
holes.
for a mouth.
I I'll be honest, like I actually get claustrophobia mentally thinking about being in a suit like that. I could never. I could
Yeah,
never.
I've tried thinking about how to react because one of the things it's actually from a horrible movie called Four Brothers, but
With Mark
somebody is going
Wahlberg?
to, yeah, he's going to, so I forget, one of the brothers is going to attempt to strangle somebody, and suffocate them. And he puts a bag over the guy's head, and the guy says something to the effect at one point of, "Great job using a clear bag. It gives people hope so they struggle less. They don't think to tear at the bag with their hands." And all I could think of is, how would I deal with that situation knowing that it's closing in, but being able to see out at the same time?
Well, the condensation would fog it up pretty quick.
Yeah, but it doesn't take long for you to suffocate somebody. I mean, it's the nicer form of strangulation because strangulation, there's a lot of initial loss. But with suffocation, really what you're doing is you're forcing the carbon dioxide back into their lungs and they pass out fairly quickly. That's why you can smother somebody with a pillow fairly quickly. I don't know that from personal experience.
Is it no one else has got the Papa Roach song going through their head?
I'm putting
Suffocation, no breathing.
putting my hands up right now just in case there's cops watching. Don't shoot me. Don't tase me, bro.
Don't tase me, bro. Is that what you just
Yes.
said? Oh,
It's better than if I went to Dicks Out for Harambe. I mean, I could go way back.
dicks out for Harambe. Dicks out for Harambe. There's a whole song. Um,
That you didn't need to repeat. I'm just telling you, you did not need to repeat that.
you know, this is unrelated. Can we please bring back Vine? I know we have TikTok, but can we bring back Vine?
Just
That's
so that you can get Dicks for Harambe.
dicks out for Harambe. Dicks out for Harambe.
Well, I know what shirt you're getting for Christmas this year.
I'll wear it during my keynote presentation.
Yes, please. Oh, no, 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 no. For that, I have a Ren and Stimpy outfit for you.
And that will be my crescendo and last keynote.
Yes. So,
That's my swan song, wearing a Ren and Stimpy outfit. That's what
uh,
I'll become a serial killer in a Ren and Stimpy onesie.
uh, so we're close to the end of episode 20.
Yes.
And I think what we should do is we should talk about the one thing that each of us has learned in these 20 episodes that we've done.
Oh.
So I'm putting you on the spot where I did not plan this,
No,
but I
that's
figure it's a
okay.
good way to end this season.
Well, I'm trying to think
And
if I should be funny or serious, and I'm leaning towards serious.
oh
Uh,
God, no, don't be serious. Then
Not
you're going to try to be
philosophical.
philosophical and
No, I knew you were gonna say that. Um, no, it's, be yourself.
I
Simple.
agree. We had long conversations about whether we were going to play a character or be ourselves, whether we were going to be a fake version of ourselves or be ourselves.
Yeah.
And you'll notice as we've progressed, the gimmicks have gone away. We do better when we talk as who we are, as opposed to talk as to who we think our audience wants us to be.
Yeah, and I actually think some of the feedback we got from a few of our listeners throughout the episodes of like, it's funnier when you guys just banter, and it's actually true. It's like it's also more fun for us because we're able to just talk how we normally talk.
Yeah,
And I mean, also let the stupid ideas come to the surface because some
yeah.
of those have been actual episodes.
Yeah, I mean, the whole celebrity cage match started out of a stupid idea that we never should have done, but there was no stopping us once we started.
No, no, because it's our show and we're gonna do whatever the fuck we want.
And the Squid Games version of it is going to happen in season 2, so
And
it's
it's
not.
gonna be stupid.
We have not given up on that bit yet. But
Nah.
the one thing that I'm going to say, and this is not meant to discourage people from trying to do what we do, because I run a TikTok channel with my daughter that is all about encouraging kids to do what they think is funny.
Yeah.
And just realize it's actually a lot of work. Um, but if you're going to be able to tell whether it's something you want to do, if you're willing to do the work. And, we take some shortcuts. We don't do a lot of editing. Like the editing is getting the theme song into the front, the theme song into the end, finding my little cutscene to make fun of Clown College Boy, that sort of stuff. Um, But there's conversations that we have to have outside of this to be able to make it work, and there's still editing that has to go on, and there's testing with SEO and the website, which I'm still behind a little bit on getting some of the episodes up, and
Well, I have not
there's
done a great job on the Instagram lately.
yeah, I mean it's a lot of work, and we have day jobs.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, so it's interesting the amount of work it is, but there's very little of that work that I would say I wouldn't do again. Now, inviting your brother on to come record on his cell phone with us, I would not do again. Just so
I
you're
will
aware.
say we well, I to make that funny point real, we've learned a lot about the ins and outs of making a podcast as well, of what to do, what not to do.
Yeah.
I will say I think like the mics we purchased, I love. They've been fantastic. So I like zero issue there. Good job. What I learned today, Logitech.
Yes, there is no brand called Yeti microphones.
Yeah. But here I sat and I was like, yeah, I bought a Yeti. I'm telling everyone, yeah, I bought it. They're probably like searching for it. And they're like, what the fuck did this guy buy? He can't. This
How
is like,
is how is he talking into a water bottle or a cooler or whatever that is?
oh,
Yeah,
shout out to Austin.
but I mean, just even the technology that we've gone through with throughout the season, we've used one, but we've tested multiple different recording mechanisms.
Oh, yeah.
We've tested, who we should actually host our files through to be able to do this. And we've adjusted that a little bit over time. And that was a learning thing. We've adjusted the script. We've adjusted who what we're trying to do. And when I say script, I mean the loosely built script that we start with that has gotten looser and looser as we've gone purposely. We've
Yeah.
talked about it
Yeah.
because the banter is better. Um, I said I wouldn't make this something to discourage you from this. It's been great doing this. Just realize you're going to be able to tell fairly quick if you're built for this based off of the amount of effort that's involved and if you want to continue putting in that effort. And if you find that the effort is overwhelming in your third or fourth podcast, it's probably time to hang it up because we could have given up at that point. I don't think we've talked at all about what our give up point is because even if nobody listened, it's just funny to us. And
Yeah.
that's the other thing I would say to your point about being real. Be funny to yourself, and the right people that think that that's funny will tag along. Don't just try for mass appeal. Joe Rogan is not Joe Rogan. Okay.
Mm-mm.
Joe Rogan is the person that he is because he wants to sell podcasts.
Yep.
He wants to sell subscriptions. Just be yourself and see what happens.
Yeah. And I will say, to kind of piggyback off your point, this is not for the people that are looking for next day fame.
Yeah.
We're not seeking any fame. We just like to talk.
Yeah.
And our spouses told us to fuck off. We talk too much. So we decided to talk to each other.
Oh, I found out, by the way, that you're my work husband again. So,
Oh,
oh,
oh, I'm gonna do a little heart symbol. There we go. It's so gay.
I quit.
That was so fast. That's all it took.
So, but I mean, we have a group of listeners that listen to every single episode. We
Yeah.
thank you for
Yes.
figuring this out with us. The people that email, the people that send ideas in, the people that played along with Celebrity Cage Match. It's great. Realize we would have thought it was funny if nobody did anything, but the people that played along, thank you. We love you. I
Yes.
don't say that easily, but just stick with us. We've got more stupidity planned.
Oh, I think it's just gonna get worse before it gets better. Let's be honest. But I'm here for all of it, so
When
I'm
we came
excited.
up with Celebrity Cage Match Squid Game Edition, yeah, that's about as idiotic as it can get.
I hope we can dive into more depraved ideas in season
Yes.
two.
Yep. So we're going to do an interlude, and it's going to be an interlude done our style. We've talked about this before. We're going to do it from Murder Mystery Podcast, obviously something that we're fairly interested in,
Yeah.
with a little twist.
Yeah.
And then we'll be back for season 2 within a month to a month after that. And if we can find the right technology, because we're technology shopping right now, we will attempt a video again, but no promises on that.
Yeah, I would like to complete the cycle, but we'll see what we can do. But until then, thank you very much for listening. Please find us at repressedhumorissues.com. And I'm Ryan.
I'm Dan.
And we'll talk to you next time.
Thank you for shopping at Walmart.
Thank you. Come again.
Can I see your receipt, please?
He's gonna kill me. He's gonna kill me. He's gonna kill me.
Okay.
Oh, wait,
You ready to do this?
1 second. I gotta fix my. Hold on. Let me just crack this sumbitch open. Something I don't need at. What time is it? 8:02 at night, but whatever. Yeah.
Is it really that surprising?
It's Celsius Peach Vibe. Oh, God, I love that shit. All right.
Okay, so you realize I already hit the record button, right?
No.
I win again.
When did that? I mean, I know it says 1:20, but where was I?
When I sat back down, I hit it and I waited until it counted to 5 because I knew you were looking at something else.
God, I was looking at the M&M's package because I was just like, I'm a fat fuck eating these goddamn Easter egg M&M's.
You realize I'm still recording, right?
Yeah, that's right. I need to remember that stuff. God. Oh, all right.